your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Superman, and we're the only ones who can be strong, but we break on command, 'cause women rule the world.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. Control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul. Watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated. Misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded. Watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other. Watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon. Desensitized in our lust for attention. Democratized by our voyeur obsessions. Watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection. Don't let them project you as you are. Reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, where the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you so much for tuning us in at spacedoutradio.com and on Spreaker, as once again we come in from the frozen Canadian tundra, battle our way past the wild animals, sidestep Bigfoot, and enter Uncle Jimbo's cabin, stoke the fire, heat this place up, and broadcast you live on this Thursday night, early Friday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we do this thing 3 hours a night, 7 days a week. We want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the ufological, the paranormal, spiritual, and so much more. Space Out Radio's theme music is courtesy of guitar god Ron Bumblefoot Thal. You can find his new album, Little Brother is Watching, by going to spacedoutradio.com. Hey, if you're a social media junkie like I am, you can follow us on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel, you can subscribe to that, is Spaced Out Radio Show. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we welcome in our fans listening in on the SHR Media Network, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans at Euphoria Chronicles on Facebook, as well as the SOR Space Travelers, and online at Paranormal Forum. If you're a fan of Spaced Out Radio, coming soon for $5 a month is the Space Travelers membership. You sign up, you get to try to win some prizes, take part in private group interviews, monthly newsletters, and so much more. Hey, we're going to give you a heck of a lot more than just access to our archives. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rivulet Reiki and Readings, providing healings in person or at a distance. PurplePlates.com, helping heal your body, mind, and soul. The New Agora newspaper is the official newspaper of this show. And the iPhone app, Spirit Story Box. It's the official ghost hunting app of SOR. Tonight on Spaced Out Radio, a familiar voice rejoins us in Canadian UFO author and journalist Bob Mitchell, as next month Bob and his team will be hosting the Alien Cosmic Expo in Brantford, Ontario. Guests from all over North America with experiences and contact will be attending to discuss the UFO phenomena that all of a sudden is starting to take over all of the talk in the presidential nomination race in the United States. Hey, this is making Stephen Bassett smile from the Paradigm Research Group. You know he's all over it. Disclosure is definitely a hot-button topic, especially surrounding Hillary Clinton's campaign. And you know, it's funny, and we'll get into this tonight with Bob, but very few people took the John Podesta tweet of a year ago very seriously. In fact, Spaced Out Radio, as many of our longtime listeners will know, was one of the only media outlets saying, read between the lines, people, when Podesta let his infamous tweet out on February 13th, 2015, which read, "My biggest failure of 2014, once again not securing the hashtag disclosure of the UFO files, hashtag the truth is still out there." Ominous, really, don't you think? And to think, before all of this heated up in the last couple of weeks, when I asked guests on this show, and there were a few of them, about that tweet, they told me there was nothing to it. It meant nothing towards disclosure. These are people who are professionals in the UFO field. Not CNN, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, ABC, NBC, Fox, or whoever. Bob Mitchell tonight will talk everything alien with us, and we'll draw closer to ACE and the Alien Cosmic Expo. We bring in Bob Mitchell now on Spaced Out Radio. Bob, how you doing?
I'm great. As I'm in my basement again, my furnace just came on for the air conditioning. I hope you can hear it.
Well, as long as you are staying cool, which I don't think a lot of our American listeners will actually understand that sometimes here in Canada we do need an air conditioner.
Yeah, you know, it was funny. I was talking to somebody in California yesterday, and yesterday morning here in the Toronto area, it was about, now I'm going to use Fahrenheit because I still like using that more than the other stuff, but I'm going to say it was 75, closer to 80 degrees Fahrenheit here about noon, 1 o'clock yesterday, and it was 60 degrees in California. Of course, it was morning there, and he was telling me that when it's 65 in California, they think it's snowing in Canada. So I said, no, it's pretty hot here today, and it's the hottest day of the year so far. So, but the air condition hasn't come on since about before 5 o'clock tonight. So the house was cool, and I guess I can't understand why it's coming on now, seeing how it's just after midnight. But well, you don't expect it to be on too long. But
you know what, Bob? There's a reason why in my intro I always say we're coming in from the frozen Canadian tundra. You know, it's a typical Canadian wordplay. I know you get that. I know a lot of our listeners actually get the little bit of sarcasm in there. But I always like to have fun with that. So how you been doing since the last time you were on?
Good. I've been, talking on lots of radio shows like yourselves, all across the United States. There's not too many like you here in Canada. But I'm certainly glad to be one that I'm on your show quite a bit, and it's always good to spread the news. I know there's a lot of listeners out there, and I've been talking about What If, Close Encounters of the Unusual Kind, talking about forbidden knowledge, revelations of I can't even remember what the title is anymore. But that book is still number one on Amazon Kindle for the UFO, so that's good. And I've been busy writing another book that I would love to be able to tell the listeners what it's all about, but it's hopefully will come out by Christmas. And I think the journalist in me would say that this is, if it was a story I was writing, it would be the story of a lifetime. Let's put it that way. And it does involve a whistleblower. And let's just say that if I wasn't writing this book and I was reading this book, the quote I would put at the top of the page would be, "This book will scare the hell out of you." So it scared the hell out of me sometimes just doing the interviews. So it's that kind of book. So I don't even have a title. I don't have a title for the book yet, even to let you know what it is. But it's going to be something I think everybody will want to read, and then they'll all want to hide. That's all I can say about it.
Bob, as you have started to grow, and your name has really in the last 6 months to a year become very popular in the field of ufology.
So I understand.
Are you surprised when you get all of these people now starting to come up to you and saying, "Bob, I have some information for you"? Because with your background as a reporter for 40 years with the Toronto Star, there's obviously a trust factor that goes along with that when it comes to information.
Yeah, I really do believe there is a trust factor, because that's the only way I can explain it. Because, 3 years ago, doing this was probably the farthest thing from my mind. And yet, the more I appear on radio, the more books that come out, I'm getting more people coming to me. In fact, I can tell you, since Forbidden Knowledge came out, which I co-wrote with Jason Quitt, I've had at least 3 and possibly 4 people come up to me and ask if I can either co-write this book with them, or can I look over their book and help me get it published. And it's it's flattering that they want this. I just don't have the time to do all this, but they're all very worthy causes, and I probably will get to them, but for the next 4 or 5 months, I'm really concentrating on the book that I'm writing right now. But I guess it has something to do with trust, that I'm a good listener too, and I'm not somebody that's going to ridicule them all the time. So I think that's one of the keys. Don't just put everybody down. Need them to tell your story, and then ask them questions about it.
Absolutely. And Bob, you know what? I got to tell you a little bit here that I'm actually starting my own book next month.
Good.
Good. I have one of our monthly contributors, we call him the crypto guru around here, Ronald Murphy. He's a very talented writer. He actually asked me late last year if he could, once he gets a break from writing the series that his publisher wants him to write, if he could actually sit down and write everything that's happened to me, because it's been kind of a whirlwind over the last couple of years. And I said, yeah, sure. So finally in June, we're going to start putting this together to write this book. I've never done anything like that before, my friend, and I could tell you, I'm a little nervous.
Oh, he beat me to it then, because you were on my list too. But I'm glad for you. It's going to be a cathartic thing for you too, because you'll find out you're revealing things that you didn't think you'd want to ever reveal. But the fact that you're doing this radio show, probably, you got to own it if you're going to do it. So you're going to own it pretty soon.
Well,
if you haven't already owned it.
Haven't owned it yet. We've still got a long ways to go. I just got to get my website up and running. But what has changed since the last time you were on air is we're actually have created Spaced Out Radio as its own entity, as its own business. It's now registered in Canada. So the one thing I actually like about that is the fact that now, if I go online, and I used to get, not all the time, but every once or twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month, I'd get these so-called networks that are online coming up to me and saying, hey, we want to broadcast Spaced Out Radio. You'd be perfect for our format at night, but it's going to cost you a couple $100 a month to us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. So the good part about it is, now that I have a business license for Spaced Out Radio, we can actually sit down and say, how much are you paying us?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the way to do it, if you could do it.
Yeah, who knows?
Somebody wants to pay you, and that's always the good sign.
Well, you hope.
Yeah.
Radio, everybody wants it for free. You know that.
Oh, yeah. It's, I know, it's like, and I understand why there's no money out there to hire people to do things, but, what you do, you do every night of the week, and I don't know how you do it, because I find just doing these interviews, 2 or 3 times a week, even 2 times a week, is kind of exhausting. So I don't know how you do it every night of the week.
I consider it therapy, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And
well,
that's why I roll with it. And believe it or not, my wife, Mrs. Spaced Out Radio, she likes me better when I do the show than from when I wasn't.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's always helpful.
Absolutely. Bob, I want to get into a couple of big topics tonight. We're going to get into disclosure, as I mentioned in the introduction. But first, I want to spend some time here to talk about something that is very important to you, and I think important to everybody who's an experiencer out there. You have set up the Alien Cosmic Expo for the weekend of June 24th to 26th in Brantford, Ontario.
Yes.
And I believe this is the second one you guys will be doing.
It's the second one. The first one happened last year, basically around the same weekend. So that's what the idea is, to always have it around the same time. And it was, Joanne Eady, she's the person behind it all. And last year I helped her out a little bit, but this year I'm really more part of the organizing committee, and especially with the ET disclosure hearing that's happening on the Saturday. But it's going to be a really tremendous event, particularly. The people that we're bringing for the ET disclosure hearing are also going to be guest lecturing individually as well throughout the weekend, and we really have a rock star lineup. The names that are on there, everybody would recognize if they tuned into any alien type documentary show on television these days. So it's not a bunch of nobodies, put it that way. It's a bunch of somebodies, and if we had a little more luck on our side, we would have had a few more people that are really the king's pins of the industry, but they just couldn't find their schedule to match with what we needed. So, but there's always next year.
How important is it to do a conference like this, especially in Canada, where these topics, I don't want to say they're still taboo, Bob, but as we've discussed before, people in Canada, we're so laid back up here. It's like, we don't really want to talk about that. But Bob, there was this one time when I saw something up in the sky. You know that conversation.
Always. In fact, I had a similar conversation with that just recently on another radio show, and they talked about this being a taboo subject in the United States and Canada, and that it was a little different up here. And I thought about that a bit, because I'm not so sure it's a little different up here. I think it's just that we're so laid back and we're so connected to the U.S. media that we probably watch more U.S. news than we do Canadian news up here. I'm as guilty as anything. And my wife is too. She's a CNN junkie, and CNN will be on our television from 8 o'clock in the morning to, well, it's probably still on right now, and in between we watch other shows and stuff. And if it's not on American network, it's not news. So I just think Canadians are so tuned into that way, that they've sort of lost their way basically when it comes up here. But you're not going to hear a lot of UFO news anywhere unless you go into the alternate media, such as yourself. Like, you're not going to have this on, I don't know, even I guess they still have them, like ABC News at night on radio and CBS News at night. You're not going to hear anything about UFOs unless something happens that causes the public to, sit up a bit. Hey, did you hear what that guy said last night on radio? So I think, unfortunately, that's the way it is and that's why we need conferences like the one we're having that try to open the minds and try to get, drum up media interest, not just in Canada, but internationally, to the mainstream too, because that's what we're trying to do this time.
I fully agree with you, and as someone who's worked in mainstream radio, and you worked in the mainstream with the Toronto Star for 40 years, I would love it if you could give our audience, Bob, some perspective of what it's like being in a newspaper newsroom when the topic of UFOs or paranormal or something along those lines comes up. Because I know what it was like in my newsroom, so I'm curious of what it was like in your newsroom.
If it ever came up, and I spent the bulk of my career covering crime at the Star and then in sports, so it would never have come up in the sports, and that was the last 3 years of my career there. I covered sports, so let's go back before that. But I honestly do not remember a time in the 35 years that I worked at the Star ever having anybody bring up the subject of UFOs or even talk about it. The only time I remember hearing anything about it, and it lasted for, I think, one day, was when they had the Washington Congress, the fake hearings in 2013. We happened to have a reporter, Mitch Potter, who was stationed in Washington, and he covered it for that one day, and it made the paper. But after that, there was no follow-up, there was nothing, and it just wasn't something that people talked about or even was interested in, because it was something that was reserved for the National Enquirer, basically. I'm sure all of us can remember going to supermarkets, and it wasn't even the National Enquirer, it was another paper back then. I'm trying to remember the name of it. But it wasn't as flashy as the National Enquirer, but they always seemed to have a UFO and a space person or an alien on the cover, either talking to the president or talking to somebody. The
Examiner?
So maybe that was it. Yeah, I think I kind of remember. Yeah, and it's not around anymore. So, and in some ways, the National Enquirer has become legitimate now because they don't go for the stories they used to go for. But I mean, they're just, unless you wanted to hear anything, you had to tune into late night radio or something like that, because the mainstream just never covered it, and that's what we're hoping that happens in June, because we've invited. Well, I mean, I've personally invited, I think, over 100, maybe 200 legitimate journalists in the Toronto area, the Southern Ontario. I've reached out to CNN, Fox News, CBS, ABC, everybody, asking them to consider coming up here, not only to cover it, but asking to be a member of the panel. Like, we only need 6 or 7 reporters on this panel, and I don't know if it's surprisingly or not. It's certainly not surprising to me. It's a little disappointing that we haven't had a deluge of people saying, "Yeah, I want to come up here and be part of this." And I think they don't want to come up here to lend their name to it, even though I'm pretty sure that a lot of them probably believe wholeheartedly in it.
Do you think, Bob, that it's credibility for a lot of these reporters, because they're already, if you look down across the border, they're already playing catch-up with the whole disclosure movement, and Hillary coming out and talking about it publicly, John Podesta over the last few weeks talking publicly. It's becoming a very hot topic down below the States. And everybody, for the past number of years, had been kind of sloughing it off, saying people who are into UFOs or they're a little bit running on 3 flat tires instead of 4 good ones, or playing with a half a deck, whatever cliche you want to use. I know in radio, when I worked in Vancouver, and we had a call into our newsroom about lights over the North Shore Mountains or something over Richmond that wasn't an part of the YVR flight path or something along those lines, the reporter on the other end of the phone, and I saw it, would be sitting there, oh yeah, oh, that's very interesting. And what did it look like? Okay, well, let me make some phone calls, and if we can get anything, we'll put it on the air. And then it was hang up the phone, and
there was no phone calls.
There was no phone calls made because
yes.
Immediately it was like, oh, some wingnut saying that the ET is flying around the skies of Vancouver, whatever, click. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And, the interesting thing is, I mentioned the other day that all of the major newspapers in Canada, and I'm speaking of Toronto, the Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, I'm sure the Vancouver papers have this. They all have an investigative team that does nothing but investigate things, and they spend 6 months doing it. And I challenged the other day that to get the editors of papers in Canada to assign somebody, even if it's just one person, to just look into the UFO question, try to do FOIA things with the Canadian government, try to just spend 6 months doing it, and they might be very shocked and surprised what they come up with. There might be some secrets there that the government doesn't want you to know, and they will write you back with a redacted piles of info, and that might get you thinking there's something else that they don't want you to know. But I don't think there's any buddy out there willing to do that, which is a shame, because once disclosure does happen, everybody who is sat down is going to be playing catch up. If you could break the story, that used to be the one, break the story before anybody else does, and now it's almost like, well, we're not going to touch this until somebody else does it first, because we don't want to look like idiots, But
absolutely. Absolutely. Bob, I'm going to get you to hold on for a moment here. We're going to hop out for our first break of the night. We are talking with author Bob Mitchell. He is part of the panel that is starting up the Alien Cosmic Expo next month, and Bob is gracious enough to help us line up a bunch of their guests to be on this show in June to talk about the Alien Cosmic Expo, from Stanton Friedman to Grant Cameron, Steve Bassett, Victor Vigiani, Susan Collins, many people coming on the air next month. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be right back after this break.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Hi there. This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 Mediums and a Large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up, enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is Elizabeth Anglin, and on the last Monday of every month, I join Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. We delve into everything from extraterrestrial contact to animal communication. It's a lot of fun, and every month it's something different and exciting. I would love it if you would join us. You can hear and learn from my experiences, and I'd like to know about yours as well. Cosmic Passport on spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small. You're bound to find what you're looking for, so join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover Demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost?
Look no further than Spaced Out Radio.
SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click on to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on radio
or our website, including social media.
From commercial spots to banners, we have it all.
Check out our competitive pricing today.
Want to connect with us online? Find us on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR, on YouTube, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. All right, space travelers, here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening in on the SHR Media Network, on Paranormal Forum, if you are in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker or on Facebook following us at Euphoria Chronicles or the SOR Space Travelers, thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night, it's Paranormal Roundtable night once again. As it's the final Friday of the month, we'll gather a bunch of guests, come on in, and hit up some paranormal topics that are going on in the past month of May. Reminder, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. You can subscribe to that. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. Once again, tonight we bring in author Bob Mitchell. We're talking about the Alien Cosmic Expo he's helping organize in Brantford, Ontario, that takes part next month, as well as we're talking disclosure. Right now, right before the break, we're starting talking about the media and how the media works in regards to these types of experiences people are having. And one of the things that Bob was talking about is how it's almost an ignored subject through the media up here. Bob, a lot of people have talked to me, whether it's on the Canadian side of the border, the American side of the border, that they feel the media is infiltrated by government officials saying that we don't want you covering these types of stories, and that it's coming down from the government to the newspapers and the television stations and the radio stations to say, we don't talk about UFOs on the news wire, let's keep it away. How far from the truth is this?
I've never been in management in a big-time newspaper, so I can't tell you what kind of influence happens that way. But I think it would be safe to say that not so much in this day and age, because the advertising of newspapers has gone down the tubes. That's why newspapers are shrinking. But if you remember, it wasn't too long ago, I would say 10 years ago, there used to be full-page ads from major department stores and major tire companies and all that stuff. And I think it would be safe to say that you wouldn't want to write a story that would scandalize one of your big advertisers. So if there was any pressure, although it wouldn't have been, it would kind of be pressure that it wouldn't be so overt. It would be sort of like behind the scenes, that you wouldn't do a story on that. But I can't see a government or any kind of official having that much control over newspapers. to put a story in. I just think it's just the fact that if you're going to put a story about UFOs, it better be a darn good story. They're not going to put a story that people saw a bunch of lights in the sky. And the other interesting thing is, and this has always been the way in Canada, is if there was a story, say, let's pick a state, Utah, and just say tomorrow there was a story that something happened in Utah where, hundreds and hundreds of people saw strange lights in the sky, and that story got picked up by a local paper there and then got put onto AP. So then the Toronto Star, the Sun, or the Vancouver Province, they would see that AP story, and because it's on AP and because it's getting such big play, well, we're going to put it in our paper too. So it'd be more likely to get a story that way because it's already been out there somewhere else. So if you're like the second or third time person putting it in, it's not so much embarrassing that you've put it in there. But if the same 10 people or 20 people called the Toronto Star newsroom and said they saw these strange lights, I think you would get the same reaction that, oh, well, yeah, sure, you're drunk, have another one. And I just don't think anybody would care. Unless it landed right on the, at the foot of the Toronto Star building. That's just the way it is. And that's why disclosure is so important, and it's so important that it's become I won't say an issue on the presidential race, but it keeps popping its head up. There was a story, I think, that broke in England yesterday. I saw saying that Obama was going to beat Hillary to the punch, and he was going to be the disclosure president. The headline said that anyways, but if you read the story, it was more of just same old stuff about going back to Jimmy Kimball's thing and kind of funny remarks she made facetiously. So it's hard to say why that got picked up that way, but the headline certainly made it had a lot of legs to it.
Well, one of the things that, and Stephen Bassett was quoted on that, he'll be speaking at your conference, as well as he'll be speaking on this show again on June 22nd.
The funny thing about Stephen, when Victor Vigiani approached him, I don't know Stephen personally. I've heard him speak, but Victor's been very good friends with him for a few years, and when he approached him about this, I think it was probably 6 months ago. Stephen kept telling him, there's no point doing this because disclosure is going to happen before your conference, and he was adamant about it. He kept saying it's going to happen. Don't your conference is not going to. It's going to be old news by the time June comes around. Well, it hasn't happened yet, so Stephen's coming. So I guess the timetable's changed. But if there's one person in the States that's been continually harping on this, it's him. And without people like Stephen, we wouldn't have the kind of movement that's going on right now.
We hear of so much, Bob, in Canada regarding disclosure, and we hear about it from a journalistic standpoint, as I want to still focus on the journalism side. Are you surprised that those types of questions about ETs, UFOs, disclosure have not come into Ottawa yet, where Prime Minister Trudeau has had to start fielding questions, or our Minister of Defense or anybody on those lines has been fielding those questions? Because there's nothing coming out of Ottawa regarding these topics either.
Well, to get somebody to talk about it, somebody has to ask the question. So I guess, again, the time to ask that question of Trudeau, although I'm trying to remember now if he was even elected yet, when Hillary spoke to that reporter, I think it was New Hampshire, when some reporter in a local New Hampshire paper asked her about it, and she said she was going, if she got elected, she would certainly look into Area 51 and all that. And that story, had a life of its own. The time to ask Trudeau would have been right then, saying, this happened, Hillary just said this, what does the Canadian government know about this? But nobody asked him that. And when scrums happen in Parliament Hill, it's usually about something that happened that day, and they're always rushing somewhere, so there's there's never a formal time to ask that. I guess one way to ask it would be to pressure your member of parliament to stand up in the House during question period and then ask it. But you're going to have to get some member of parliament on your side, because he's going to think that I'll be an idiot and laughed out of office or something if I ask this question, even though he probably doesn't understand that a lot of his own constituents would love that question to be asked.
It's all about saving face.
It is. That's why it was so interesting last week. We were talking off the air, and I'm sorry I can't remember the name of the two reporters, but there was the White House has a briefing every day, I believe, and usually it's the press secretary that handles the questions. And somebody in the middle of the questions, which had nothing to do with anything that had been asked previously, asked a question about the UFO topic of, about disclosure, and he sort of brushed it off. And then another reporter got up and said, "Wait a second, if the president knows something, surely the public needs to be told of this. Why aren't you telling him? Why isn't he coming out here to tell us about this?" And the press secretary again just brushed it off and basically said, "Well, the president's not here right now, and you can ask him that the next time he's here." And then they ended the press conference. So, all hats to that reporter to do that. But, I'm sure a lot of people laughed at him at the time. But for us who are serious about this, we looked at that as saying, bravo, you had the guts to do it. How many presidential debates were on TV in the States before Trump basically won it for the Republicans? I mean, there were 17 candidates at one time. They seemed to have a debate every 2 weeks, and not one person ever asked that question: if you're elected, will you let the public know what's really going on? And no one asked that question. And if they had, that would have been the biggest question of the whole night.
And the funny part about it is, Bob, here Hillary is talking about it. John Podesta is egging the media on to ask the question, and we as the media are not following through with what is being presented to us. That's bad journalism.
Well, I sometimes wish, if I had been there, would I got up and asked the question? Would I have had the guts to do it? And I kind of hope I would have. But the pressure, there's peer pressure around everybody there. It's like, Wolf Blitzer, CNN, well-respected, newsmen suddenly getting up and asking that question. It's probably not in him to do it. I think Anderson Cooper might ask the question, but not in that format. He would ask the question if he was on a one-on-one, I think. But the only people that seem to ask the questions are the late-night talk show hosts, Jimmy Kimmel, and because it's funny, too. Absolutely. Everybody gets a big laugh out of it, and it's almost like that's the only place they would do it. But I think the average person doesn't realize that all those shows are scripted to the point that, when Obama goes on there and Clinton goes on there, they know that question is going to come up. There's no way that it just comes out of the blue, because they're always, told what they can say, what they can't say, what's the best way to answer these things. So, to me, every time that's come up on a late-night talk show, it's somebody has asked Jimmy Kimmel to raise it.
Absolutely.
And that means there's something else behind that.
How many more hints do the media need out there to understand that this is a hot-button topic? This is, next to Jesus Christ coming back from the dead once again out of the heavens, this is the next biggest topic in mankind's history.
Yeah, and what are we talking? Well, I keep saying we because we're so tuned into the United States. It's Bernie Sanders saying the same thing every time he gets up there, that it's a crooked system, that the system is fraud, and Hillary getting up and condemning Trump, and Trump getting up and condemning Hillary. Well, there's just the substance was very little there to begin with, and now it's really not there. So, I would like to know what Trump's view on the whole thing is.
So would I. And
we seem to know what kind of Hillary's view is a little bit. She's kind of here and there, and the history of Hillary and Bill seem to be connected to UFOs in some way, but we don't know anything about Trump. So, and I'd like to know what Trudeau. I'd like to know what his views are.
I would like to know what Trudeau's opinion is on that, too. And you know what? Maybe what we need to do under the SOR Twitter page is start hitting up Prime Minister Trudeau about the UFO question and about disclosure. Maybe that's what we should start as a little campaign here.
Yeah. Or like anytime the opposition does something, like they have a critic, right? There's a housing critic, there's a transportation critic, and they always have to find something to criticize the government. So you need to have somebody from the opposition, ask the question. Except you want to make sure that they're pretty solid in their writing, I think. But,
exactly. I want to get more into disclosure later on in the show. I want to talk right now about the Alien Cosmic Expo, because you're really doing this about the experiencers and people who are having a tough time with experiences. And one thing that I have noticed recently, and I was talking to Lorian Fenton about this. I'm not sure if you know who Lorian is.
Oh, yeah, very well. Actually, Lorian has invited Jason and I to be at 2 of her conferences in October.
Wonderful.
So we're going to be in...
Wonderful.
I don't know what the town's called, but we fly to San Francisco and go to San Jose, and it's some little town near San Jose, and then we're going up to another conference in later in the week in the middle of Napa Valley somewhere. So
that'll be a nice trip.
Yes.
Nice trip. But one of the things that Lorian and I have talked about, and I talked a little bit about this on the air last night for those who were tuning in, was the fact that a lot of these investigators or researchers, when it comes to the field of ufology, are basically telling the experiencer, look, we understand that you've had an experience, but in our research, the experience really means nothing anymore. It's like we're done with the days of Betty and Barney Hill. We're done with the Travis Waltons. We're done with those people who are getting abducted or having some sort of contact. Whether it's paranormal, ufological, or crypto, really doesn't matter. Because all the focus these days, Bob, seems to be on the science of everything, the disclosure of everything. How do you think that makes people feel?
Well, I hope it doesn't make them feel that they can't come out and tell their stories. I think experiencers, maybe they don't give a damn about what other people think. I know the ones that I've talked to, after they tell you your story, they feel so tremendously great that this burden has been lifted off their shoulders that it doesn't matter what anybody else sees or thinks. They know that they've experienced something that is out of the ordinary, and you can't explain with the rational mind. So, I think there is obviously something to what has happened to these people. I do not believe they're crazy. I do not believe that they've had these memories psychologically implanted in them. They've all experienced something, and a lot of it's different, a lot of it's similar stuff, but they don't know each other. So it's not like they got together in a club to compare notes. So science, regardless what these other experts think is going on, most of these experts who are telling them these things haven't experienced them themselves. So you can't possibly know what they've experienced unless you've experienced too. And I think that's one of the problems with a lot of people that are writing books and doing research, is that they haven't experienced this, so they automatically leap to the conclusion that it's something else. And I don't think that necessarily is actually the case.
When you look at the experiencers and the people who, compared to the people who are trying to rely on the scientific study of it all, do you think there has been a real disconnect? And if so, where do you believe that started, Bob?
Well, you see, science is based on fact and things you can prove. And it's pretty hard to prove that you've been abducted. So I think the disconnect is right away. It's it's just a natural disconnect that happens. But I don't know where it began, because I don't know where it all started in the first place, that where experiencers decided they would come out of the shadows to tell their stories. I mean, there was Betty and Barney Hill, and if you read their story, they didn't want to come out. They didn't even know they had been abducted till they had eventually went to the regressive hypnotist. But they just thought something strange happened to them, and they couldn't shake it. And the same thing with Travis Walton, although it's a little different. People saw something happen to him, and so scientists, there's so many things that we didn't know 10 years ago that scientists know now. So I just think I think science and the experiencer phenomena, if you put it away, are two different things. I don't think they're connected in one way or the other. I think the science is based on third-dimensional rational mind, and abduction is based on something else that cannot be explained unless you experience it. That's why they're called experiencers.
The excuse that I have heard, and I'll throw a name out there, whether it's Richard Dolan or Mike Barra or somebody along those lines, the excuses that they are saying now, and I'm not saying that they're full-on excuses, but the reasonings, let me use the word reasonings they are given, is that people who are experienced are not qualified to give information because they will never be able to recount the true happenings of what happening. Therefore, their testimony should be invalid.
Well, see, but how do you know they can't recount the true happenings? Like, how do we know? How does anybody know that? How can you say that somebody who experiences something so phenomenal, so horrific in some cases, so wonderful in other cases, how can you say that it's not truly happening to them?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of saying it's not truly happening, but it's kind of like, in a court of law, if you have an eyewitness testimony, that could put someone behind bars for life. What they're saying is, and a lot of these people are saying, is we can't use the eyewitness testimony because we can't guarantee that it happened that way.
But they can't guarantee it didn't happen either. So
I agree with you.
I'm not sure. What do you do then? I mean, what do you say that Travis Walton made the whole thing up? Do you say that Travis Walton is a lunatic? Is he crazy? If he's crazy, then so are all his 6 friends, or they're all in this cahoots, and they've all passed lie detector tests. So,
well, I think Travis is in. I think Travis is in the in the area where he came out before this has exploded over the last 10 years. Okay.
Yeah, but if it happened right now,
I don't think he'd be believed.
That's an interesting question. Would he believe now more than he would have been believed back then?
But you have to also take into account CGI.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that is one of the bigger problems that we have, is that so much stuff can be faked, and to the point where it really looks real, and you can't tell what is real and what is not real. But I don't know what the answer to that. Even trying to prove something that's real, like some of it, you can actually tell that this can't be possibly real. Some of it is so good that you're not sure. But it does pose a big problem, because if there's so much fake out there, how do people just think everything is fake rather than think everything is true. So I agree that's a big problem. But on the other hand, I'm continually, what's the word I'm going to look for? Not growing, but with every interview I do and with every person I meet, I am evolving myself in what I think is going on, or what I believe is going on, and I think in basically the last few months, especially with the book that I'm doing now that I can't really talk about, I am more convinced than ever that 95% and possibly even higher than that of all the stuff we are seeing in the skies is United States high-tech machinery.
That's a high percentage, Bob.
Yeah. And I will go as far as to say that every single triangular UFO that people are seeing are also totally ours, not theirs.
That would be the aircraft that they call the TR-3B, right?
Yes, and there's a few other names for it. But it's ours, not theirs, in the sense that America built it, but it was built on design from alien technology.
Right.
But it's not an alien spacecraft.
Very understandable. Bob, I'm going to get you to put on hold, and we'll continue that thought right after this. Author Bob Mitchell is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking disclosure. We're talking experiencers. We're talking next month's Alien Cosmic Expo in Brantford, Ontario, June 24th to 26th. And we're going to get right into that right after this break. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be right back.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio on the Spreaker.com network.
Do you believe you've been in contact with extraterrestrials? Have you seen the Greys, the Mantis, or the Reptilians? I am Samantha Mullet, and on the second Tuesday of each month, you can listen and learn from my experiences with off-worlders on Spaced Out Radio's The ET Experience. With host Dave Scott, we'll sit down and chat about what's going on with our friends from other worlds. We'll also try to answer your questions, so please tune in on the second Tuesday of the month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Right here, this is where we divulge the fruit of our research. Here on the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night. at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, on Spaced Out Radio. And we give it up to you guys, all the listeners, and the live listeners usually get something special and hang out in the chat room. And we love to have you. So we'll see you every Saturday night at 8 p.m. You know where.
If you're a fan of social media, you can follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel, where our archives are stored, is Spaced Out Radio Show. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and you are listening to Spaced Out Radio. We do this thing 7 days a week, 3 hours a night. We want to thank everyone for tuning in on the SHR Media Network, on Spreaker, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. We welcome in those listening in at Paranormal Forum now, and on Facebook, Euphoria Chronicles, as well as the SOR Space Travelers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Always appreciate it. Tomorrow night on the show, the Paranormal Roundtable joins us once again as the panel will discuss paranormal topics from the month of May. Look forward to that one every month. Thank you so much for being with us. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. I want to get to some questions with Bob Mitchell, our guest tonight. He is author extraordinaire, also one of the organizers of the Alien Cosmic Expo, June 24th and 26th in Brantford, Ontario. Bob, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, as usual.
I want to get to some questions from our audience, if you don't mind. We'll start off with Eric Cooper in the SOR Space Travelers room on Facebook. He's asking you, Bob, why does it seem that so many ufologists do not seem to connect ufology and alien abductions as paranormal as part of the paranormal study?
Well, you know, when I first started doing this, to me, paranormal meant ghosts. But I've since learned that paranormal can mean not just ghosts, it can mean anything, especially if you consider that entities and aliens, and probably way more aliens than we believe even exist in the fourth and fifth and sixth and multi-dimensions. So I think they just haven't come to that conclusion yet. I'm certainly have been won over, basically, I guess you could say, that there are entities in other dimensions that are every bit as alien as the aliens we think of being just the Greys or reptilians or whatever in the third dimension. So I just think those people haven't connected the dots yet on that. But I would agree that it's all part of the whole paranormal topic. It can be interchangeable now.
Do you think that people are still a little too blind in order to connect the two?
Maybe, because I have friends and relatives who they'll tell you, up and down that that ghosts are ghosts and they're dead spirits and they have nothing to do with aliens, and they won't even consider the possibility that what they're seeing may not be a spirit in the sense they think of as a ghost, but it may just be an entity from the fourth dimension coming through. So I know there's a lot of hardline people who aren't willing yet to even consider that possibility. But again, to me, everything all goes back to the point is that if you haven't experienced it, it's hard for you to accept anything. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the luxury position of, well, I haven't experienced most of the things that other people have that I write about. I'm experiencing their experiences through them. So I've had this front row seat, basically. Most people don't get that opportunity that I have, and I feel very privileged to be able to have that opportunity. But I can certainly see why people don't believe there's any connection, because they've been taught all their lives that spirits are, maybe dead grandma or some guy that's haunting a place where they died and and they don't know they're dead. But I don't think that's the case at all.
James Borg from Euphoria Chronicles says,
Oh,
hey Bob,
James.
how are you?
Hello, James. Good.
He's got more of a comment than a question. James would love it if you could describe your Oakville blue light UFO experience.
Okay. Actually, I just thought of something before we leave the topic. The paranormal and the UFO must be getting closer, because I've been invited to speak at the Ottawa, I don't know what the name of the whole conference is, but it's in Ottawa, and it's a paranormal society up there. And they have a lot of paranormal people, including self-proclaimed witches, speaking there. And I've been invited to speak from the UFO point of view. So worlds are colliding that weekend.
Tell me about it.
Around the campfire, too, I understand. So it's going to be very eerie. Yeah, it's going to be even eerie. James put me on the spot again. Okay. It's interesting he's brought that up, because tomorrow night in Brantford, we're having one of our semi-regular meetings for people who are into UFOs and the MUFON Brantford Club. And a guest that was on your show recently is our guest speaker, Leslie Mitchell-Clark.
Yes.
So
say
she's
hello to her
come,
for us.
I will. She's going to come out and talk about regressive hypnotists. And I think she doesn't know it yet, so unless she's listening to the show, she won't know it, because I'm going to ask her about it. I'm supposed to be on her show, her new television show, Contact, and we're going to film it on June 1st. But I'm also going to ask her if she will do a retrogressive hypnotist session on me to find out exactly what did happen with that blue light incident. So let the cat out of the bag there. But anyways, the blue light incident. I have to preface this by saying I don't know what happened. I don't know if it has anything to do with UFOs at all, but it was certainly a strange thing that happened. And about 10 years ago, we lived in Oakville, Ontario, and my wife worked she was a support worker for Sunrise Senior Citizen Support Home. She worked the late shift, so she usually got home after midnight. I was still a crime reporter for the Star, so I went to bed around midnight or 1 o'clock, and so we'd pass very briefly. And that night, she came home, we talked a little bit, and then she stayed up to watch some TV to wind down, and I went to bed. And I'm... At that time, I was a very, very light sleeper. The slightest thing woke me up. Or I don't even believe I ever dreamed. I used to think I never dreamed because I never went into the deep REM sleeping. I guess people who have had kids will know what that's all about, because throughout your life you never sleep because you're always worrying or thinking about what the kids are doing. And I guess that followed me even when the kids were older. So about 3 o'clock in the morning, my wife comes into the bedroom to wake me up, and I was sleeping. I mean, I was in dead. She had to really wake me up, and she said, "You got to come out to the living room and look up into the sky, look through the front blinds." She said, "There's a hole being punched through the sky, this light." And I don't remember getting out of bed, but she says that I walked into the front room and she opened the shutter. We had shutters then. And pointed up into the sky, and apparently there was this bright light, almost looking that it was, I don't think it started on the ground, but it was up somewhere, and it went right through the darkness of the clouds up there. And it was like a pretty straight light, so it was very unusual. And what made it also more unusual was that apparently there was a windstorm all around our house, almost as if our house was in the middle of one of those tornadoes that you'd see in Dorothy or the Wizard of Oz. And I have this memory of not looking out the window, but I do have a distinct memory of my wife saying, "The garbage cans are blowing down the street, and the patio furniture is going all over the place." And we had a swimming pool out back at the time, too. So she went out the front to pick up the garbage cans, and I went out the back to pick up the patio furniture. And I clearly remember stepping outside into the backyard to pick up the patio furniture. And as I stepped outside even though it was supposed to be pitch black at 3 o'clock in the morning, I remember stepping outside and it was a bright, sunny day. At least it seemed like there was this huge light over my head. But I never looked up. Don't have any memory of looking up. But I do have memory of picking up all the patio furniture that was going all over the place. The backyard fence was banging back and forth like a windstorm. And I remember being... It felt like I was in the middle of a vortex of... It's like I was in the middle of a mini tornado. It was all around me, except it wasn't cold, it wasn't hot, but I could feel this wind. And it was all part of this whole backyard incident. I do clearly remember that. My wife says that she came in the backyard to ask me if I needed any help. I do not remember that. And then I got everything done. Everything was, put back where it was. The windstorm ended, and I remember coming in from the backyard, closing the door. And at my mind at that point, all I remember is I went right back to bed. My wife says that we actually sat up for a bit and talked about what had just happened. I have no memory of that whatsoever. And to this day, she doesn't really have a clear memory of what we talked about, other than the fact that we did talk about the strange wind going on there. And the next morning I got up, and in my mind, I thought I had this big dream. It was very vivid. And it was strange because I thought, I had the strangest dream. I was up in the middle of the night. I was in the backyard. It was a windstorm. It was bright daylight. And so when I saw my wife that day, I said, did I get up in the middle of the night and go out in the backyard and all the patio furniture was going all around? And she said, yeah, you did. It was this big storm out there, and we had to go tie everything down, and it lasted for a few minutes, and there was this light going through the clouds, and I really had no memory of this. And the strangest thing was that the next day when I saw my next door neighbor, I happened to say to them that was some storm we had the other night, and they thought I was crazy. They said they didn't know what I was talking about. There was no storm, there was nothing, and so I didn't think anything of it. And really 10 years went by. We never really talked about it again. It was like an incident that happened, but it wasn't something that was on our minds. And it was just, about 3 years ago when I started writing UFO books and interviewing experiencers that one night my wife brought up this incident that happened, and I started remembering again. And of course, we were talking about what I remembered, and she says, no, this happened, and I didn't have any memory. And then all of a sudden she said, when I was talking about this white, brilliant daylight light above me, she says to me, and this was the first time she ever said it to me, was that when she came in the backyard, she said I was standing inside a bluish white light. And that was the first time she had ever said that to me, and it caught me thinking, because a lot of the people who I talk, who they tell me about their experiences, they always tell me that they see a bluish light, or they're covered in a bluish light, engulfed in it. So I don't know what happened. My wife insists that I didn't go anywhere. So not that I was abducted or anything, but I don't know what happened, and I think I'm going to find out. And I either want to know something happened or it didn't happen. And if nothing happened, then I don't need to tell this story anymore. But if something happened, then I'm going to be one of those people that, I've experienced something, so now I know where everybody else is coming from. And maybe I'll find out something else that I don't remember. So it's a little eerie, a little bit, I don't think I'm nervous about it, but I'm eagerly anticipating doing this if Leslie will do it for me.
Well, I hope Leslie does do that for you, because it would be very interesting to see what kind of answers you get out of that, to see what truly happened on that night. Maybe that wasn't the only time you've been taken, Bob.
Well, I don't have any feelings or anything about this. I talk to my wife about this all the time, that I have no idea why I suddenly started writing about UFOs and alien experiences, and I have no idea why people seem drawn to me to want to tell me their stories. You asked me that at the beginning if it had something to do with me being a journalist, and perhaps it does, except most of the people that have come up to me, I don't think they even knew my background was as extensive as it is. But people who talk to me and know me, they all tell me that it was, I was meant to do this. So I don't know. It's a really strange feeling to know that with every book I'm getting deeper and deeper into this rabbit hole, and I'm very curious to find out what really is going on, if it's what I really think is going on, or it's something completely different than any of us think. But I'm pretty open-minded, and I've changed the way some of the things I think is going on, so we'll see. But I am anxious and I'm willing to have it filmed too, so that's the other thing. So we shall see.
Bob, a lot of people who are deep into this field often say that they have been harassed, had their phones tapped, had their computers with files go missing, have been followed, maybe government officials coming to their doors or men in black being around. I don't mean to sensationalize everything, but the deeper you go, do you concern yourself with those safety measures?
It's not something that I think about every day. I have had an inordinate amount of computer problems this past year, but I probably think it has more to do with the fact that I'm using Windows XP and Windows Vista rather than Windows 10 because my computer is very, very slow to the point that if I turn it off, it'll take an hour for everything to come up so that I can start typing. So I rarely ever turn the computer off. But that being said, I've never felt concern. Although the book that I'm doing now, I have been told that when I am talking with the person who I'm talking with extensively, that he's pretty sure people are listening. And I'm learning stuff that probably I'm not supposed to know. But it's strange as it may seem, is I don't feel concerned. I don't know if that's my journalistic background, because I covered a lot of very heavy crime stories and probably was in far more danger doing that than what I'm doing now. So, but it's something it's just never bothered me. So, but I have heard the stories where people said that they've been followed, but lots of times this comes from people who have had experiences where they think they're being followed and told not to talk about it. So maybe I'm just not that important yet.
Do you think, though, and I mean to ask this because I've been asked those same questions too regarding this show, do you think that it might have anything to do with the fact that there is some sort of safety, if we can call it, albeit loosely, about being here in Canada, where, even though this is an international story and a worldly story, there's still borders that have to, and laws that have to be recognized?
Well, I think that if the people in power wanted to get you, I don't think borders would matter. But I think they're more concerned with terrorists these days than anything else. So as long as I'm not a card-carrying member of Al-Qaeda or ISIS, I think I'm okay. I purposely stay away from any websites like that just in case, because you never know. Because I guess the NSRA is looking at us as much as they're looking at the United States. NSA, sorry. unnecessary. I just think that, people like you and I, they think that we're just a bunch of idiots and crackpots and nobody's paying attention to them.
I don't mind that. I really don't mind that at all.
Harmless. We're harmless, and the more we talk about it, the more we think it's all. You talk about conspiracy theories, and that seems to play into the way they want to keep it. It's the fringe lunatic societies out there talking about it, not real scientists. Of course, they must have had some kind of qualms when people like Edward Mitchell talks about it before he died, and other people. But I'm sure they cringe every time they hear Hillary talk about it.
I have a question coming in on Twitter from a good friend of mine in the Vancouver media who wishes to remain anonymous at this time, Bob. And one of the things that they are asking is, compared to what we were talking about in the last half an hour about the media and media's involvement with these questions, do you believe, doesn't matter what side of the border it is, Bob, that the media has dropped the ball on the whole disclosure idea?
Absolutely. I think that, as I alluded to earlier, big chance would have been during this presidential election, because this presidential election is so weird, so much different than any other presidential election. I think any question could have been asked, and they probably would have gotten away with it without too much fanfare. I just think if any election, this would have been it. And it's not over yet. The real election hasn't even started yet. So, but it's interesting, because if Hillary had come out and made a big deal about this, Trump probably could have used it to his advantage by saying, that she's ridiculous and all this stuff. But now that Hillary has sort of come out and hinted about it, I think it's fair game for somebody to ask Trump. So it'd be interesting what his reaction would be. Would it be to tell everybody that Hillary's a crackpot, look at what she's thinking about aliens? Or would he basically maybe support her on that? I would love to hear somebody ask him about Area 51, what he knows about it, see what he knows. But
he'd probably put a wall around it to keep the aliens out.
Yeah. He might make a joke about that too.
It would be interesting.
Be up to the reporter asking the question, if he could re-ask the question again. This is a serious topic, and who knows if Trump would brush him off. But I think Paul Hellyer, he's getting up there. But as I've said before, people look at Paul now as a 90-year-old former defense minister. What we really need right now is a current defense minister to come forward and say something, because then people will stand up.
Follow-up question on Twitter that a friend of mine is sending privately. Do you believe then that when it came to the John Podesta tweet, the first one, and then there were subsequent tweets later on, that the media really didn't do it justice, when basically here is the president's right-hand man saying, this is real, why aren't you covering it?
But I also think when he did it, I think a lot of people who cover Washington probably didn't know what to make of it the first time, because they're not even thinking that such a possibility could be real. But he was the right-hand man, and a right-hand man doesn't go off and make flippant remarks like that. There has to be a reason why he did it. It certainly didn't come across as a flippant remark, and why would he make that kind of a statement? He could have said anything. My only regret leaving the White House is that I didn't, get to go bowling in the White House bowling alley. I mean, people would have looked at that as being, a laughing matter. But when he says what he said about the aliens, people should have stood up and asked questions. But I don't think they did, or if they did, it was, again, late night TV that did it. I'm not positive, but I would have been surprised if David Letterman didn't do a top 10 list on that and had John Podesta's name on one of those lists. The funniest thing is to come out this week or something like that. So, but there was a method to his madness, I think. We just haven't asked the right questions yet.
Bob, I'm going to get you to hold on here. We are going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour. We're talking with author Bob Mitchell tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are talking aliens. We are talking ETs, disclosure, the media, and the Alien Cosmic Expo coming up next month, June 24th to 26th. Bob Mitchell, our guest. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Fairies? Bigfoot? Dogmen? Trolls? Goblins? Hey, if it's cryptid in any way, I'm looking into it. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, also known as Spaced Out Radio's Crypto Guru. Join me every second Wednesday of the month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will talk about the stories people call tall tales. I will fill you in on the latest sightings and the hidden histories that are causing quite a stir. You can find everything at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
Would you like to expand your clientele? Have you ever thought of online radio advertising? Check out spacedoutradio.com to get your name out there. Our listeners support those who advertise with us, so why not give it a try? We have the most competitive advertising prices out there. Just click on the advertising tab on spacedoutradio.com and contact us today.
Are you an ET experiencer, but you just don't know what's going on? Are you too timid or shy to discuss it with anyone? Maybe I can help. Join me, R. Keith Andrews, the first Friday of every month on Spaced Out Radio, and I will help you to find the answers you're looking for. Together, I will help you understand the off-worlders and the true meanings behind your experiences. All you have to do is join us in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. See you there.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. We're starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining in. If you're listening in on the SHR Media Network, on Paranormal Forum, on the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, as well as on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, as well as the SOR Space Travelers. Good to have you with us tonight. Tomorrow night on the show, the SOR Roundtable is back. I'm bringing in a panel of guests. We're going to discuss everything paranormal as we do it the final Friday of every month. Remember, you can follow us on social media on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back, for the final time tonight, author Bob Mitchell. We've been talking ETs, we've been discussing disclosure, and now we're going to get into the Alien Cosmic Expo, which runs June 24th to 26th in Brantford, Ontario. If you're on the East Coast, head on up. It'll be a conference like no other. Big names, experiencers, people in the know. Bob, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
I would love it if we could go into the Alien Cosmic Expo here, because the lineup you guys have this year is really second to none. It's not just a bunch of scientists getting up on stage saying what they think it could be. You got a good mixture of scientists to experiencers.
Yes, and you know, it's actually two conferences in one this year. We have the Alien Cosmic Expo, which, like a lot of conferences, we have guest speakers talking about what their latest book is, and some of them don't have books on them, just talk. But the big thing this year, and it's never been done before in Canada, is the ET disclosure hearing, which is taking place on the Saturday morning of June 25th. And the premise is, this is really Victor Vigiani's. It was his idea, and you're going to have him on next to understand one of your next future shows. So he'll be able to, really get into what he believes, because he's one of these exopolitics guys. But we didn't just want experts to come and give their spiel. We wanted them to tell what they know from the years that they've been in this business, and we wanted to have questions be asked of them, but not from people who know anything about this business. We basically wanted, not necessarily skeptics, but we wanted mainstream journalists, academics who had an open mind, that could listen to hear what Stanton Friedman has to say about Roswell, and then could ask a question or two to get him to convince the world, basically, that Roswell existed. We've got Travis Walton on the panel, and again, he's going to say, 5 or 7 minutes about what happened to him and his experience, and then we'll have a mainstream journalist, ask a tough question that Walton can answer that will prove that something happened. And so the idea was to invite mainstream journalists, academics from, basically we've invited them from all over the world. We invited from England, United States, Canada, to come to Brantford and participate in the panel. And we hoped that we'd get so much demand that we'd have to pick and choose, and we figured it would be a tough call to narrow it down to 6 or 7 journalists asking the questions of the people that are on the panel. Unfortunately, we haven't had this tremendous demand yet. We will have 6 journalists. I'm confident we will, but the big names that we hope to come to Brantford to ask these questions, they've sort of, again, either not responded or have said that, I'm sorry, I'd love to do it, but I'm going to be away that weekend. I can't tell you how many responses we've got from people saying, I'm going to be away that weekend. which may be just a polite way of saying, I don't think I can be involved in something like that because I have a reputation to uphold. Which I don't understand, because we're not asking them to, come out and talk about they think an alien exists. We're asking them to ask the questions that will try to prove they don't exist in some way. But we hope that they will be, stunned and surprised by the answers they get. And from this, we hope that they'll write a story or broadcast it or talk about it when they go back to do their shows. Because we have people, we have Travis Walton coming, we have Richard Dolan coming, we have Stephen Bassett, as we talked about earlier, coming, Grant Cameron's coming, Nick Pope, who was in on the inside of the British UFO section. He was part of that when he worked for the British government, and is still, to this day, even though he's not with them, he is sworn to secrecy on some things. But you have to read between the lines sometimes when he talks about things. So, but he is, one of the foremost experts on the Rendlesham Forest incident that happened, and because he, has talked to some of the people who are involved, and they're not all of them, and he's written a great book about it. Paul Hellyer, he's going to be there. He's the closest thing we've got to a government official, and to this day, he's still the highest-ranking, I think, government official in the world that has ever come out to say that aliens exist. So we have the people. We have the experts. Stanton Friedman, I think I mentioned about Roswell. We have 7 world-class people that are going to stand up and tell what they know, and hopefully tell some things that people have never heard before. And this is an opportunity for journalists to ask tough questions, and to really it can be a groundbreaking event. And regardless if we get the top journalists, we have the top researchers, authors, historians that have been doing this for many, many years, and they all have an expertise part of it. They're not all experiencers. They're not all authors. Some of them are researchers. And they've been changing over the year too. I mean, they're evolving too since the time they've been doing it. And some of them, like Stanton, he's been doing it for 30, 40 years, and he's a nuclear physicist. Richard Dolan, I think, was one step from a Rhodes Scholar. So, these are Paul Hellyer. These are not, guys running mom and pop grocery stores. Although there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, these are not people off the street that have an opinion. These are world class people that are very respected in the industry. So, the opportunity there is for journalists to ask these questions, and we're just hoping that they will, because if they don't, and they don't take the opportunity to do there, once again, they've missed a glorious chance to really open up this conversation that needs to be open. And the timing couldn't be better, because it's getting some play in the United States with Hillary. So it's not something that, people don't know about now. I mean, people are starting to talk about it, and if we could only get somebody from CNN up here, it would give it legitimacy. Because as I always say, if it's in the States, it's legitimate. If it's here, it doesn't mean anything unless they take interest in the States. So that would be just wonderful if we could do that. So that's on the Saturday morning. On the Friday, it's Experiencer Day, and we're going to have 6 or 7 people who have had experiences with abductions or encounters or whatever you want to call it, third-dimensional beings, fourth-dimensional beings. And the public is invited just to come into a room where they are and to mingle and to ask questions and just sort of be in a room full of people who know where they're coming from. And we fully expect and hope that people will take the opportunity to, open up, to reveal things that they've hidden from their family members, probably. Because even when I was doing the early books, and that's what I found, that people had a story to tell, and they just wanted to know that they weren't crazy, that there was other people like them. So if we get hundreds of people in this room all wandering around talking with people who have had the exact same experiences they have, it's going to change their lives. And that night we have a dinner on the Friday night, and Travis Walton is going to be the guest speaker. He's going to be showing his film, I think it's called Travis, and it's the real story of Travis Walton and what happened to him. It's not the Hollywood version of Fire in the Sky. It's his own words, and it's the words of all his friends that were with him that day. It's a wonderful documentary. I've seen it a couple times. This is a story that it happened, folks. It's not something that was made up or make believe. He really went somewhere for 5 days, and it wasn't just for a walk in the woods. And then on this Saturday night, I think we've got. I think Richard Dolan is going to talk about how deep the secrets go in the government. He's going to tell people what he knows and what he thinks the government knows, but just aren't willing to tell us. And Nick Pope, he's got he'll be talking about what the British government knew and what they still know, and what they haven't told us about yet. And myself and Jason Quitt, we're going to actually close the show on the Sunday afternoon, talking about our latest book, Forbidden Knowledge: Revelations of a Multidimensional Time Traveler. That will be very interesting because it actually will be our first public appearance together at a show. We've been selling our books together at shows, but this is the first time we'll actually be on a stage together. And I've got my own personal lecture. It's going to be an interesting lecture because I deal with one particular person in my book, What If? Close Encounters of the Unusual Kind, and it's entitled The Inside World of the Greys, and it's going to be a PowerPoint presentation based on what this lady, Cinta Asia Narada, told me about her connection with the Greys, and it's going to be a look at the Greys that most people have never heard of or seen before unless they've picked up my book. It's a completely different take on this species, and I have still not made up my mind whether or not she's either being lied to by a species, or there's mind control going on here. But she certainly knows something about a species that she calls the Ataraku, and it's a completely different take than what we have been taught or even thought we knew about the Greys. So I don't want to say it's an irreverent look at it, but it's going to be a different kind of look, and I'm looking forward to that, and I think a lot of people are. But it's there's something for everybody here, but the real key is the disclosure hearing, because if we can get the coverage we're hoping for, it'll be an international covered event, and it should get press all around the world, because once one story goes out there, it's picked up on the wire, and you don't know where it's going to go. Because I remember last year, the Modern Knowledge Tour did a thing in Calgary with Paul Hellyer, and that story got picked up, and it ended up in newspapers from England to China to Africa. So imagine if Canadian press covers this event, and it goes to the American press, and then who knows where it's going to go. I think it can only help the disclosure movement, and there's certainly enough top-notch people, names that are coming to it, that I'm certainly looking forward to it, because I really don't know what they're going to say. I know they're going to say things that's going to astound people, and I'm hoping the questions will be just as good as they can be, so they can answer them truthfully and really tell people what's going on in this world.
Bob, you have to ask Travis about what happened at the 2015 Experiencers Conference in Portland, Maine, where when he was speaking, there were 3 Pleiadian beings that came into that conference.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that.
Absolutely. if you talk to Ray Hernandez or Lynn Hartram from Free Experiencers, or a gentleman who is on this show once a month, R. Keith Andrews, who actually got a picture with one of them, these three Pleiadians actually came into that hotel where the conference was being held, and they went to listen to Travis speak. Nobody knows how they got into the hotel, and nobody knows how they got out. And there was about 20 witnesses to this.
And what conference was this again?
It was an Alien Experiencers conference in Portland, Maine, in late August, early September last year. I think it was in August.
2015.
Yes.
I will certainly ask them that, because maybe they'll show up here. That would be great.
Well, you know what? It happened, and I'm going to ask you, and what I'll do is I'll go on Facebook, and I will message you, and I will message R. Keith Andrews, who is on this show. He was there. He actually had a conversation with them, and this is all up front. There's witnesses to this, and they've counted up to 20 witnesses in this, and they were there.
How did they look Palladian, or were they blonde and blue-eyed and?
They were a bluish silver skin, but when they walked in, to be honest with you, if you were to see the photo that I've seen, and I've had that photo confirmed that is them. I don't have a copy of it. Okay, but they almost look, the one gentleman with the photo, he looks like he's a early 60s guy who has spent too much time on the beach, way too tanned. Okay, but the funny part about it is, up close, people who were up close to them will say that their skin pigmentation color was actually swirling, like they couldn't hold their skin pigmentation.
Did it cause much of a scene there? I mean, I would have thought it was.
It did. It did.
And Travis knows all about this. Oh, boy.
Absolutely. He was there. And I think it's one of those very little talked about topics that when you're sitting in a conference, you're not expecting E.T. to come in and say hello. But apparently they took their seats, they watched Travis speak. I'm not sure if Travis talked to them afterwards, but I do know that they were there.
Well, maybe they were just in town passing by and they heard he was there. I said, let's go take a look at this guy. But, wow, that's something. I would be delighted to meet them if they came up to Travis. I mean, it's one thing to meet Travis, but imagine to meet the Palladians, too.
Oh, absolutely. It was.
There you go again. That's one of those things. If you experience it, that's the only way to really understand.
Well, the funny part about it is, Bob, is the amount of harassment from the public that has come out to people who were there saying that they witnessed it, that they saw it. Okay? The harassment that these people have taken from people who are supposed to be experiencers or contactees or something along those lines, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, because you would think, I mean, all the experiences that I have been in contact with, absolutely love talking to other experiencers and hearing their experiences. So I can't imagine anybody that I know would have been critical of this. I think they would have been just totally amazed and wonder about the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that seems like a complete...
It is. Yeah. It's a phenomenal story, and like I said, I'm going to get R. Keith Andrews.
I never heard about it before. That's really.
I know. It doesn't surprise me that you haven't. But like I said, on Facebook, I'm going to get R. Keith Andrews and you to chat, and he can tell you the story. Maybe you guys can hook up on Skype.
Yes, I would like that.
I
think I'm connected to him because I've seen some posts by him. I think so. The name sounds familiar for some reason.
Yeah, he is very, very well in tuned when it comes to the extraterrestrial field.
yeah, that would be very, very good. That would be something to... Geez, that might be a question I might even ask Travis myself at the hearing.
Absolutely, as you should.
Yeah.
I love how the fact with the Alien Cosmic Expo, you guys have split things up. It's not just your normal conference where you have just speaker after speaker after speaker. You've actually really cut it in half. Like Friday, you have the experiencers. Saturday, you really have the scientists and the researchers behind it. Why did you do it that way?
I think it was just for variety. It was Joanne Eady's idea, I believe, for the experiencers. It was Victor Vigiani and with my help for the other one, for the ET hearing, and then we had the normal guest speakers coming. And I just think it melded perfectly. And really, it's like it's 4 events in one. If you want to say that there's also a vendor's place there that's free to everybody all day long. So there's the vendors event. There's the the Friday Experiencer Day, the scientific day on the Saturday, and then more of just lectures on the Sunday. It's just a way of attracting, I think, more interest. And you can buy the whole weekend. You can buy just the dinner on Friday night. You can buy individual speakers. So it's up to you. It's almost like a pick and choose cable thing. But hopefully the weather will be good. Last year it poured rain every single day, and I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, because a lot of people didn't want to come out even to get in their cars to come to it. So, and especially people who were going to travel from Toronto or somewhere else, because it's about an hour's drive east of Toronto and an hour's drive west of Buffalo. So if it's torrential rain, people aren't going to get in a car. So hopefully this time it'll be a bright sunny day, and hopefully there's much more publicity about it. We've had some good publicity in the Toronto Sun wrote a story on it. The local paper here wrote a story so far. The Canada's national Six Nation newspaper, Turtle Island News, because Brantford is very close to the Six Nation. It's a very heavily Native Canadian interest in the whole thing. So they've given us some coverage. There was some interest on Canada AM, but that we haven't been on it yet. But they wanted us on there, and of course, all the radio shows, and like yourself, was doing a wonderful thing to have guest speakers on. So we still got another month to go. So hopefully the interest will be getting more and more, and hopefully more. Hopefully somebody who I'm not expecting will say, yes, I would love to be a member of the panel, and I'm bringing up a television crew from Los Angeles. That would be great. So we actually have had a lot of interest from people that are doing documentaries, want to come up and interview people. But the mainstream news, that's what we're trying to get this time, because if they don't show up, this is their chance. And then, they've got nobody to blame but themselves if the story does break, that disclosure happens. Then they're going to be scrambling, trying to find people to talk to.
It's kind of amazing and funny, as we get back into the whole media side, watching the media try and play catch-up if all of a sudden disclosure happens, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be, the media, if they came to this thing, they would make so many contacts. And that's the big thing when you're in journalism. When I started, I knew nobody. And over the years, I got to have a pretty extensive list of contacts that if I wanted somebody to ask a question, I'd just go into my Rolodex and I knew where to call. I had cell numbers, I had home numbers, and all that stuff. And so many people coming into business now, they don't have this, so they're at a disadvantage. So, anybody that comes to this event will have contacts beyond their, wildest dreams, that if you ever needed to get somebody to get a comment on something, you could just pick up the phone without having to worry where you find a contact. So, it's a Saturday morning, just hopefully nothing big happens in the world that will take people away. But here's the chance.
Well, I can say this. The center of the universe will have a ton of media staying in Toronto because that is NHL draft weekend.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, but you know what? It's the sports media, so they're not coming out to us.
I know, but you know what it's like when the Toronto Maple Leafs are in the news, and there could be an alien invasion, but if the Leafs draft Austin Matthews first overall, that's going to be headlines right across the country. You know this.
Yes, I'm so glad the Vancouver Canucks didn't get the first pick, but
we're not that lucky. We've never been that lucky. I'm going to say that.
But you made a trade a couple days ago, which
yes, we did. I like it.
Well, I thought it was a good trade too, but you gave up an awful lot to get this guy.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you have to give to get.
I know. Everybody's saying Florida fleeced you, but we'll see.
I don't see that. I really don't see that. We'll talk hockey off the air because I know all of our American friends down south are like, "What's a puck?"
Yeah, well, they're all pulling against the Raptors tomorrow night, but we'll see.
Or you mean the others?
Yeah,
according
the
to
others.
CBS. According
The
to
others.
CBS.
Yeah.
Bob, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's always an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I want to say it's also a big thrill for me, being a Canadian show, to have a little fragment of a part with a bunch of your guests that will be speaking at the conference June 24th to 26th in Brantford, Ontario, coming on the air next month to talk about what they are going to be speaking about at the Alien Cosmic Expo. So I want to thank you for giving us a hand as well.
Yeah, we put the word out, and hopefully the late night doesn't deter people.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bob Mitchell, tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and his furnace as well, who wants to make a nice appearance. That was the third time, but that's okay. Bob is good people. I'm glad to have him as a friend of the show. And you know what I like about Bob is he's just as excited about this show being Canadian. And I know that may not mean a lot to you guys in the United States, but here, there's not a lot of people up here talking about these topics. It's still a little taboo. Don't know why, but it is. So that's why Bob gets all excited to be on this show, because he knows that it's nice to have Canadians actually talking about Canadian experiences and what's happening around the world with these experiences as well. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We're going to open up the phone lines to you right after this.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy, from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Is the 24-hour world starting to wear you down? Let me from Rivulet Reiki and Ratings lend you a hand. Hi, this is Jolene, and if you're in need of Reiki or a realm reading, come to my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r, and let us help you out. At Rivulet, I specialize in healing your body, mind, and soul, no matter where you are. And be sure to check out the Rivulet R&R Facebook page for your best deals. Remember, it's time for you to make some time for you.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm so glad to be here. I'm just really, really glad to be here. All right.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com.
Big debate happening in the SOR chat room on Spreaker. Who has the better hair, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, or Hillary Clinton? I'm voting for Trump. Welcome back to the final hour of Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and you are able to tune us in on the SHR Media Network on Spreaker. You can take part in the Space Out Radio chat room. If you're listening on Paranormal Forum, thank you so much. And if you're on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles or the SOR Space Travelers, always a pleasure to be with you every single night. 7 days a week, 3 hours a night. That's what we do around here. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Bob Mitchell was our guest in the first 2 hours. We were talking about disclosure, media, along with ETs, and the Alien Cosmic Expo that comes up next month in Brantford, Ontario. So if you're listening in on the East Coast, I would highly suggest that you take a trip up north and check this conference out. It's going to be a good one because some of the names that are there are top-notch, top of the line, from Richard Dolan to Grant Cameron, Victor Vigiani, Travis Walton, Stanton Friedman, Paul Hellyer, Steve Bassett from the Paradigm Research Group. They got a little bit for everybody. It's not just a bunch of these scientific professionals coming out and saying, ETs are here, they're real, we can't officially say anything about them until it comes out publicly by the government. No. They actually care about the experiencers as well. Very few conferences out there are dealing with experiencers. I don't know why. We talked a little bit about this last night on the show. And we talked about it with Bob a little bit. But the experiencers, we have to be able to have some place to go and chat. That's why we try and open up as many avenues as possible. Because here on Spaced Out Radio, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a heavy researcher. I don't have a team built around me who can do that work. Excuse me while I turn my heater down a little bit. Kind of toasty in the SOR studios right now. But what I am is I'm a journalist and I am a experiencer. Many of you who have listened to this show know about my experiences. We've heard from some of yours. And when we put it all together, there are a lot of shows out there like this one. They may not broadcast every day. They may broadcast once, twice a week, maybe once, twice a month. And we talk about what is going on. But how many of those shows out there right now are talking about the experiencers? What you are going through? Because there is so much confusion about what is happening out there. Are ETs good? Are they bad? Are the UFOs in the skies actually UFOs, or are they technology that is ours? Is Bigfoot real? Is it a hominid? Is it interdimensional? Is Dogman, Goatman, Frogman real? Are there really werewolves patrolling the forests of Pennsylvania, like Butch Witkowski says? And you notice that we're all arguing about the same thing. We're all arguing about the experience. And when it comes to the experience, who's right? Who's wrong? Because my experiences may be different than someone else's. Does it mean that I'm right and they're wrong? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. What if disclosure happens? What if that story that I read last night that quoted Stephen Bassett, who says that he believes that Barack Obama, before his time is up in the White House, will disclose the ET and UFO phenomenon? We got into that a little bit with Bob Mitchell tonight. What kind of panic will that set in the world? There's a lot at stake here when it comes to disclosure. There really is. You have the religious fundamentalists who believe that everything ET or everything UFO is demonic. You have the Pope, on the other hand, coming out saying there is a good chance that there is life elsewhere in the universe. You have Hillary, being led by John Podesta, saying that if she gets into the White House, she will disclose as much as she possibly can without harming national security about what we know about about Area 51 and extraterrestrial contact. In fact, Hillary does believe that we may have already been visited. So what does she know? What does she know? I'm going to read some John Podesta tweets here for you. Okay, let's start off with the one on February 13th, 2015. He tweeted it out at 9:55 a.m. This was when he announced his resignation from helping as a counselor, right-hand man to President Barack Obama to join Hillary's campaign and to run it. At Podesta 44, because he's born in 1944. No, he's born in 40... When is he born? Born in 1949, pardon me. At Podesta 44 is his Twitter handle. Finally, my biggest failure of 2014, once again not securing the hashtag disclosure of the UFO files. Hashtag the truth is still out there. CC at New York Times Dowd. Maureen Dowd of the New York Times was someone who did not believe in the UFO phenomena. I thought it was full of crap, shall we say. So that's why he called her out on it. 8 months later, on September 29th, 2015, reporter Lena Dunham, or TV actress Lena Dunham, was interviewing Hillary Clinton, and John Podesta sends out another tweet. Great interview at Lena Dunham. But Lena, ask her about aliens next time. Hashtag the truth is still out there. CC at Hillary Clinton. It doesn't get any more clearer than that. My only question is, and the answer that I would love to get is, and I know I'll never get the answer, I doubt anybody, even with higher ties than me, would be able to get the answer. But my answer, or my question would be, how does he stay safe? How does John Podesta not get duct tape put around his mouth or his fingers slapped like they used to do to left-handed kids in schools 50, 60 years ago? Because you don't want to write the devil's way. Got to write right-handed. How is he not told to shut up? To put it bluntly, how is he told not to shut up? We can sit here and say that Hillary isn't going to disclose anything. But what if she does? What if Barack Obama does? Like Stephen Bassett probably has his fingers and toes crossed to try and get that done. Try and believe that. What if British Prime Minister David Cameron follows up right after that? What if Vladimir Putin comes out with it? Can the world handle disclosure? And I'm going to tell you, America, because I know we have a lot of Americans listening, more so than we do Canadians. You may not like what I have to say, but I'm going to say it. I don't think the American public in general could handle it. Because it will open up an absolute Pandora's box when it comes to disclosure. And that's going all the way back to Roswell. When they were telling people, point blank, the military visiting witnesses who said that they had seen something, you didn't see anything, you'll shut up about this if you like your family, if you like your life. What if it comes out that Dwight Eisenhower, when he was president, actually did meet with extraterrestrials at Edwards Air Force Base? And he made a deal, technology for humans, for American citizens to be taken in exchange for technology. Think about it. Is your life worth a stealth bomber? Or a stealth fighter? Is your life worth missile guidance systems? Nuclear weaponry? All that sort of talk. I know, for instance, if I was being taken because of that deal, and I know I'm being hypothetical here, I would sue the living hell out of the government if that proved to be true. Would you? Americans have, in my opinion, the most to lose. You're still a very religious country. Look at the Republican Party and the Tea Party. And no, we don't want Ted Cruz back as a Canadian citizen. No offense. Okay? But there could be absolute chaos that happens. Hollywood, video games, just to name two, have done absolutely everything in their power to show that extraterrestrials are bad, extraterrestrials are harmful. They're here to eat us. They're here to scientifically experiment on us. What if the government knows about that? It's an entire Pandora's box. I'm curious your opinion on that. So we'll open up the phone lines. 1-702-302-4556 if you want to call in. That number once again, 702-302-4556. It's an American phone number. If you want to Skype me in, you can at Spaced Out Radio Dave. I would love to hear your opinion on that. Because I don't think America is ready, as much as maybe the people who listen to alternative media like you do are. Maybe you guys are. But go into a coffee shop and just ask around. Are you ready for disclosure? I don't even know if many Canadians would be. I don't know how many people around the world would actually be. Because if they disclose, now we have to define what is a good alien, what is a bad alien. How many aliens have been here? Is it in the 200s, like some people say? Is it 4 or 5, like Paul Hellyer says? Is it one race? Is it multiple races? Where do they come from? How do we know if they're good or bad? How do we know that they aren't trying to take us over? Well, that's the easy question. If they were trying to take Earth over, do you not think if they could get here that they could already have wiped us out? I refuse to jump on the negative ET bandwagon. I know there's some bad experiencers out there. I've talked to people who are having horrific experiences or have had. But in the end, if they can get here already, if they wanted to take us over, I really don't think our nuclear weapons are going to hold a candle to the weapons that they would have. I'm pretty sure they're packing way more heat than we are. That's my opinion on that. If we want to talk weaponry, if they can travel across the universe to get here, if their planet is, say, 1 trillion miles away, and they can get here, I'm pretty sure they have more than just a 357 Magnum and a nuclear missile to bring to play with us. Now, on the flip side, Bob Burrell in the Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers room on Facebook just brought up a very funny comment. He goes, and then we would need alien-specific bathrooms. Just saying. I don't know why I find that funny right now, but that is absolutely hilarious. Thanks, Bob, for contributing that. Always good for some humor. But think about it for a second. If they wanted to take us over, and they can get here from 1 trillion, 2 trillion miles away, let's be honest. They pretty much have more weapons than we could, or different weapons than we could imagine. And yet, as we were talking with Bob Mitchell, about the media, the way they've dropped the ball, there have been so many signs, never mind John Podesta, there have been so many signs over the years that the media just hasn't picked up on. On the Jimmy Kimmel Show, with Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, presidents and former presidents already know the questions going in. Do you not find it funny that it's 2 Democratic presidents that bring up the alien questions at Area 51 on the Jimmy Kimmel Show? There's those hints. What about Ben Rich, the former Lockheed Skunk Works president? We've mentioned this a lot on the show when we talk about UFOs. And it's very interesting. If you don't know who Ben Rich is, he is the former Lockheed Skunk Works president. So basically, it's his job to take technology and make it better. He helped create the F-117 stealth fighter. This is a brilliant, brilliant guy when he was alive. And he made a couple of very ominous quotes. One of the quotes was basically saying, we already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do. We already have the technology to take ET home. And no, it won't take someone's lifetime to do it. We have the capability to travel to the stars. First, you have to understand that we will not get to the stars using chemical propulsion. Second, we have to devise a new propulsion technology. What we have to do is find out where Einstein went wrong. Another quote had him saying that we're 800 years ahead in Black Book operations technologically than where we are right now. And it was Ben Rich's opinion that we should not, as the public, be told that extraterrestrials and UFOs are real. Quote, end quote, he believed that they, as in us, could not handle the truth ever. It's amazing. And with all the fear-mongering that has gone on with extraterrestrials, like we mentioned Hollywood, like we mentioned video games, never mind books, never mind theories, theses, experiencers coming out with negative experiences, because the negative experiences are always going to get more press. You do realize that. Happiness does not sell the newspaper or get people to read. There's an old journalistic saying, if it bleeds, it leads. Well, if you have a bunch of Pleiadians coming down and saying, I love you, by the way, here's the keys to my spaceship, have it home before dark. They're not going to be believed. That's the sad part. If you want to talk about this, 1-702-302-4556. We're going to head into our final break of the night. Keep the phone lines open to you or your questions. Claudia had a question in the SOR Space Travelers. I'm not sure if it was directed to me or our guest who is no longer here. I'm going to read it out, though. What if because of reincarnation or being an immortal being, isn't it possible we all have been experiencing and living on other planets? And when you live on other planets, you have to adapt to that planet. We would look different there. What if we are all recycled to live a new experience forever? And the aliens at one point were us being recycled. And at one point we were aliens and are recycled to be human. Claudia is brilliant. I'm not going to dodge this question. But this woman thinks so deeply. And this is why I love, and I got a big smile on my face right now when I get to talk about her. I love the fact that she tunes into this show, because when we have audience participation like that, it makes everybody scratch their heads and go, Personally, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, Claudia, I didn't believe really in reincarnation. But since I've started doing this show and was learning about this, because that's what I do, is much like you, I learn. I think it is very, very possible that the souls rotate. And from what I have learned about a lot of these extraterrestrials is they are God-fearing. Call God whatever you want. Energy, higher power, higher being, higher authority. Whatever you want to call him. I like to call him God. And we don't know how many souls there truly are. If we calculate it on human terms over history, you think there's about 10 billion, 20 billion souls that have been on this planet. Maybe more. I'm going off the top of my head here. Okay? But we have to account, too, that what Claudia is saying could be right. If God created us, he created all. If he is the Alpha and Omega, not to get into a religious topic, but if he is the Alpha and the Omega and the creator of all, then would he not have created extraterrestrial life elsewhere? I love debating that with religious people. We'll get into it more right after this. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We're going to hop out for our final break of the night. When we come back, open lines, open questions, open conversation. Coming right up.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio?
Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us.
From the radio, commercials, to banners, to social media.
Have a product you'd like our host to endorse? We can do that too.
Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry.
Right here, this is where we divulge the fruit of our research. Here on the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on Spaced Out Radio.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where two members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
The last Monday of the month on Spaced Out Radio is a night of psychic vision, mediumship, UFO and ET contact, Bigfoot stories, animal communication, and so much more with me, Elizabeth Anglin. I'd love it if you would join host Dave Scott and I on the myriad of topics we delve into. Every month, we share new views that may help you understand your own experiences. So tune on in at spacedoutradio.com and stamp your cosmic passport.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Missed most of tonight's show? Don't worry, you didn't miss a thing. You can head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and download our archives for free. And don't forget to get your Space Travelers membership today. Now, back to tonight's show.
Welcome back to the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you so much for joining in tonight on the Spaced Out Radio Network at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker. If you are tuning in on the SHR Media Network, thank you so much. If you're in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, we appreciate your time, as well as Paranormal Forum, and on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, where we are the Chronicles official show, and the SOR Space Travelers, who are here every night joining in with lots and lots of chat. It's always good to see you. Always good to be broadcasting. Tomorrow night on the show, I'm going to have a guest of panelists coming on to take part in the Space Out Radio monthly event. We do it the final Friday of every month. It is the Spaced Out Radio Paranormal Forum. They don't know the topics. I don't know their topics. And we hang out. We have a chat. We get you involved with your calls, your questions. It's a lot of fun. Nothing is scripted. It's a good time. We work pretty hard through the month, so we allow ourselves one night a month, the final Friday of every month, to kick back, calm down, relax, chill out, and just talk about everything paranormal. That's what it's all about. Having fun. Remember, you can follow us on social media at Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Give our Facebook page a like. Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. We've been talking a lot about disclosure tonight. And if you want to call in, I'm curious to get your opinion, especially our American listeners. 1-702-302-4556. That number, once again, is 702-302-4556. And we'll get to a question from Joe in the SOR Space Travelers. It's kind of funny, but you got to know how Joe works. Joe does our nightly critter report in the Spaced Out Radio SOR Space Travelers chat room on Facebook. Lives way out in the boonies between California and Nevada. Always has some weird animals walking through his yard. Most of the time he doesn't get pictures on his trail cams of them, though. I still think there's Bigfoot in his area. But Joe's question is, do you think the aliens watch our movies, read our books, and listen to our radio shows, and sit around and laugh their asses off? Well, we could be, and South Park did a version of this. If you're a South Park fan, they did a great version of this about 10-15 years ago. Basically calling humanity, or planet Earth, the greatest reality show going. I mean, think about it. Our planet has everything going for it. Think about it. Budding civilization, growing from who knows where. They don't know. Is it religion, or are they from monkeys? The debate continues. We have everything that they would want in reality TV. Competition, arguments, war, sex, drugs, violence. We would make one hell of a reality TV show. I'm wondering what the alien version of Stephen Hawking thinks. I'm wondering now what they would be saying about Earth. Do they shake their heads and just say, oh my God, really? Are you serious? That's going on down there right now? Have they not learned anything? Because as smart as we are, man, are we dumb. We are so dumb. I think it is possible that we are the greatest reality show going right now. As I move my iced tea closer so I don't spill it. Jason Quitt, who's been on this show as a guest with Bob Mitchell, says disclosure would have to cover millions of years of lost history. Absolutely it would. But in reality, for mankind, I'll give a little caveat to that. I still think it surrounds what happened from Roswell until today. What about the rumor of the Germans and Hitler's army, the SS, being in cahoots with extraterrestrials during World War II? Then all the German scientists coming over to help set up NASA. Olaf Phillips on this show has come on and said, yeah, the secret space program has gone absolutely wild, and people would never believe where we've actually gone. It is cool to think about when you get to it. But in the end, I still think they're here. I think they've been here a long time. I think they are in touch with government officials. Maybe not the middle to lower class government officials, and I would consider Canada in that group. But I sure as hell would think that China, France, Britain, Russia, the United States, Germany, as the bigger countries that kind of patrol the world and control the world financially as well, I'm pretty sure they know. I'm pretty sure they have a hotline to Frederick the alien, who is, I don't know, sitting on a moon base somewhere with his feet up on a desk. His three-fingered hand crossing his forehead. Really? Donald Trump is the Republican candidate? You know, I could see it now. Maybe you could too. And when we look at the way that these countries are, disclosure could be a very, very dangerous thing. We must be careful what we wish for, because if disclosure is happening, they're sure doing it in a very unpopular way. Do you not think? They've made it look like all aliens are bad, as we've talked about with Hollywood and everything. And then there's the Pope. On October 15th of last year, Pope Francis actually stated that there could be life elsewhere after Kepler 452b was found. And he was quoted as saying, "But in every case, I think we should stick to what the scientists tell us, still aware that the Creator is infinitely greater than our knowledge." Basically saying that there is a good possibility that we are not the only ones. And the man who controls 1.3 billion Catholics around the world would have a lot of say in what happens with disclosure. Or at least you would hope. Because if he comes out and says, aliens are here, they are one of God, let us accept them and open our arms to them, it would be interesting. And the way it's looking politically around the world, maybe the Pope is the one who has to do it. Maybe the Pope is the one who has to stand from the Vatican and sit there and say they are real. Because the mess that could be, and I'm being hypothetical here, that could be coming out of the United States is very, very difficult. Especially when it goes into black ops, it goes into political agendas, national security. It's going to get ugly. That's my opinion. And I don't think it can be the President of the United States. I used to say it would either have to be the President of the United States or the Pope who has to do it. But if I were to put them in order, I would say the Pope has to be number one for disclosure. Number two, because the world seems to be trusting him a little bit more, I would say it would have to be Vladimir Putin. Then the President of the United States, number three, whoever that may be in November. I don't think Barack Obama will come out with it as much as Stephen Bassett thinks it may happen, and we'll question Stephen about that on June 22nd when he is on the show. I don't think David Cameron in England even rates. I don't think the Chinese even rate. Who knows? Maybe Kim Jong-un in North Korea will be the one. He already has a unicorn there. His father invented the hamburger. Shot 18 on a 72-hole golf course. Par 72, pardon me. Golf course. Shot 18. the legendary Kim Jong-il. Question from Lori in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. I wonder if they have disclosure, if the aliens have shared the same thing with all countries, or would it be set off a dangerous competition between countries? That is a good question. It's very interesting, because I think that it could cause a lot of chaos. At that point, I think the media and the public could riot around the world. I'm not saying go all anarchy or anything like that. But once that Pandora's box is opened, it's going to be about who knows what. And I'm serious about this. I think what I'm going to do here, through the Spaced Out Radio Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio, I think I may start hitting up the Prime Minister of Canada what he knows about UFOs and disclosure. Like a daily or a weekly tweet or something like that. It'd be very interesting to see where that goes. Because there could be competition. You got to realize, billions of people are at stake here. Religion is at stake here. There's 5,000 gods on this planet. Most people go for the Christian God. If you include Catholics, that's still God. Allah is still God to the Muslims. This could turn the entire apple cart over. Because I really don't believe the world is ready for disclosure. As much as it may be imminent, we have seen other countries come out with their UFO disclosure. It seems to get very little play. Mexico, Brazil, I believe Spain as well. A couple others. But when you look at it, it's the big five, or the big four that really count. America, Russia, Britain, China. A lot of people there. It's over 2.5 billion, maybe 3 billion people right there. Claudia has a question in this SOR Space Travelers on Facebook. What do you think, Dave, made us regress in our consciousness when it seems at times, like Atlantis, Egyptian times, we were so advanced? Maybe at one time lands were filled with crystals and our energy was off the planet. It's one of those questions that you got to sit back and just say, In the Bible, not that I am a big studier of the Bible, I have read the book. I do believe a lot of it. But in the Bible, you have to wonder, like with the flood, when it wiped out humanity, you have to wonder how many times we've been here. How many repeats have we got? How many redos or mulligans have we got? That's basically what Claudia is asking. How many mulligans have we got on this planet to try and get it right? Maybe the Atlanteans were taken elsewhere. Maybe they became so advanced that when the Great Flood happened, that the extraterrestrials came down, picked them up, and took them away. I've heard that theory as well. Very interesting stories indeed. All comes down to disclosure. Would you want it? We can sit here and say yes, but are you prepared? Are your neighbors prepared? Closer to your neighbors, is your family prepared? If you're a parent, are your children prepared? If you're a brother or a sister, is your immediate family prepared? That's what I want to know. If I look at my own family, I know that my immediate family is prepared. I know that myself and Mrs. Spaced Out Radio are, which includes our 3 children. I know my father would question everything because he hates everything before he learns to like it. My mother would have nothing to do with it. My one sister may be into it. My other sister, well, I think she's a little too into herself to worry about that. But if you look around your family, and next time you're at a family dinner, maybe do that. Test yourself out. And you can say it quietly to yourself. Who here at my kitchen table or my dining room table or on my couch or in my house at this time would be prepared for disclosure? That's a big one. That's a very big question that we need to answer. Because it's scary. And then you wonder, like a guy like John Podesta, once again, and I know his name has come up a lot tonight. What does he know? What does John Podesta know that he is so adamant about getting things out? Because he's pushing pretty hard. He's pushing Hillary very hard. And he's pushing her publicly. Basically saying, this is the reason why I signed on to help you out, Hillary. I want disclosure. Tell the people what we need to know. And I'm sure that in their little contract, because you just don't leave the White House to go over to Hillary's campaign without signing some sort of contract, I will guarantee you that there is a contract, and it'd be fun to see it if that could ever be released on a Freedom of Information Act. But it would be fun to see if in that contract, because both Podesta and Hillary have been open about it, to see if there is actually a clause in there that says John Podesta will help Hillary Clinton win the Democratic nomination and possibly the White House. If she gets into the White House, she has to disclose what we know of extraterrestrials in Area 51. So to lead to that point, you still have to wonder, what does he know? What does he know? And at 67 years old, you hope that he has enough time to one day, publicly, and hopefully it's not on his deathbed, but maybe he'll be the next Paul Hellyer and come out publicly and say, this is what I know. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the fame. He doesn't need the fortune. He already has all of that. And he's a powerful guy politically. People in politics in Washington and around the world know who he is. And when you put on the table an open challenge about extraterrestrials, UFOs, what we are hiding at Area 51, it makes his word so much more credible than what people are doing and reporting on. And this is where we then shy away from the media, wondering, where is the coverage on this? Why is the president's right-hand man, and now Hillary Clinton's right-hand man, not shutting up about this? And why are they not asking the questions? Why are they not asking the questions? To me, that's bad journalism. It's bad journalism. And one of these days, we're going to have to do another journalism roundtable, and I'll bring Bob Mitchell on there. 40 years as a reporter, that would be great. But I will try and track down a couple of journalists that are currently in major markets to try and bring that to you. Because it's very, very important that we discuss that. The media, as I've stated since that tweet came out, the original tweet, dropped the ball. 40 years in the business, Bob Mitchell says, when it came to that tweet, the media dropped the ball. And now they're going to be playing catch-up because none of them have an interest in aliens. None of them are prepared for the alien story. But you watch Anderson Cooper or Wolf Blitzer, all of a sudden, they are going to be hot button on the issue. Because if Hillary gets in, crap may hit the fan. There's our man Bumblefoot. I want to thank Bob Mitchell for coming in for the first 2 hours tonight on Spaced Out Radio to talk about the Alien Cosmic Expo next month, June 24th to 26th in Brantford, Ontario. Next month we are going to have a number of speakers who will be speaking on that event. June is going to be like ET month around here. So if you're not into ETs, I do apologize, but that's the way it's going to be. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. That's where we put our archives. Subscribe to that. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. I want to say thank you to everyone out there listening in on the SHR Media Network, on the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, Euphoria Chronicles, and the SOR Space Travelers on Facebook, and Paranormal Forum online for following us tonight. Spread the word. If you like what we're doing here, tell a friend. We'll never say no to more listeners. That's how we spread the word of what we're doing here. Tomorrow night on the show, the SOR Roundtable. I believe Corrine DeWinter is going to be there, the poet extraordinaire. Joseph Aquilino. Eric Cooper will be there as well, Elizabeth Anglin. Not sure about Uncle Jimbo James Tyson. He may be on a paranormal hunt tomorrow night. We'll find out tomorrow. Paranormal Roundtable starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Our man Bumblefoot's going to take us out of here for the night. We always appreciate some good rock and roll from the man, the myth, and the guitar god legend himself. At Bumblefoot on Twitter if you want to follow him. Bumblefoot.com is his website. You can also find him all over Spaced Out Radio. He's our music master. We will talk to you in exactly 21 hours from now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good night.
Don't make a mistake. We're watching.